what you do here at Bungie.
Yeah, so I'm a staff designer here, and I work primarily within the activities department. So I am in charge of building the skeleton and framework of the activity, developing the encounters and the boss fights as well, and building that amazing roller coaster that you tend to go on as
We've been writing it for a while. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Given that today's Tuesday and Reset Day, I have plenty to dive into, thanks to you and yours. So thank you a ton, Clayton.
Yeah.
And sitting just next to him, someone that needs no introduction, but will still risk it anyway, just to make sure everyone's all caught up. The one and only the sandbox craft lead here at Bungie, the one and only Mr. Chris Proctor. Chris, how's it going?
Good, thanks, Andy.
So anyone who may not have seen you on the Into the Light streams in the past or heard you in podcasts around the community, can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do here?
So I'm Chris Proctor, Sandbox Craft Lead on Destiny 2 here at Bungie. I work with the rest of the Sandbox team and Destiny leadership, other teams, to make sure that we're always hitting that gameplay quality bar that Bungie is renowned for. I occasionally also make a few things for the game.
Yep, it's not an easy job, but we thank you all for doing it. And also, I want to note, chat's calling you out immediately. You're getting a lot of love already. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive into episode Revenant, which again is launching just next week on October 8th. But before we go ahead and dive into that, Jerome, we're on the verge now in the last week of completing episode Echoes. Can you tell us a little bit about the story that got us to where we are now?
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's start with the death of the Witness, who we thoroughly destroyed.
Absolutely.
And his
Spoilers!
Giant, smoky, billowing head dissipated into a mist of darkness, which then coalesced with the Traveler's Light. Right? Crystallizing into the Echoes. Which fell into the
What's
Soul
blood
system.
yapping about?
One of those fell, of course, to Maya Sundaresh, which we know from episode 1. And it fundamentally changed how the Vex saw themselves. And now we're going to get the same treatment with the Scorn, because one of the Echoes will be falling to Fikrul, leader of the undead Elixni army. And similarly, that Echo is going to prompt the Scorn to evolve, to see themselves in a new way, and to fundamentally change what they are. And I won't spoil anything. I'll let players discover that for themselves. But suffice it to say, Fikrul is evolving his army, he's growing his army, and in order to build Scorn armies, you need a bunch of corpses.
Interesting.
Which is not necessarily in the best interest of the Elixni. So we will be teaming up with Mithrax.
Speaking of Fikrul, we see him right here as well now. We're taking a look at the new art for episode Revenant as well.
So
Fikrul's gotten a bit of a glow up, I think.
Absolutely. This whole episode is metal. And I think that shows it right there. That accurately depicts the tone of the season.
It's not messing around. I will say, we won't watch the trailer today, but when folks see the trailer, you're right. Metal is the right word to use.
So much slaying.
Seriously.
It's going to be awesome. But the Elixni, of course, want to prevent this, and so we'll be teaming up with Mithrax, the Kell of House Light, and his daughter, Ido, the adorable Ido.
Must be protected at all costs.
Absolutely.
Thoroughly,
and she will be bringing her expertise in herbology and ancient Elixni lore to help us craft tonics, to imbue us with the power that we need to battle this evolving Scorn army.
Interesting. That is, thank you, by the way, for not only, now you've narrative directed us into our segue as well, so thank you very much. Narrative design as well. And so I think we should go ahead and dive into a little bit of gameplay, starting over here with you, Clayton. So we just heard a little bit about some new tonics and everything. Can you tell us a little bit about where we are and what we're going to be doing here? This is the new apothecary, I believe?
That's right. So we're in the apothecary space, and Jerome was just mentioning the tonics and potions that we'll be crafting. They come in 2 flavors. They come in combat flavors, and they come in reward flavors. The combat flavors are going to enhance, or rather boost your artifact perks, specific ones. Higher rarities of these tonics will boost multiple artifact perks, which is really great. And then on the reward side, we wanted to create a new or novel way to chase your gear and your weapons that you love. And we took a lot of inspiration from the success of Into the Light, where players got to attune to specific weapons. And so with your reward tonics, you'll be able to attune to specific weapons within the season.
Very nice.
They're not craftable in this season, which is important to note, but you will be able to target them, and they'll have enhanced perks.
Got it. Okay. So you'll be able to go ahead and chase down that god roll you're looking so desperately for with the help of this. But also, you know, for the build crafters out there, they're going to have even more to dive into than maybe just the episode artifact and everything. These are going to go ahead and help just boost a lot of those traits, I guess,
Yes.
Okay. So build crafters, make sure your appetites are whetted and ready. There's going to be plenty of stuff for you to go ahead and dive into. But we're going to go ahead also and dive into some of the meat and potatoes of today's stream, proverbially speaking. As we're on our way over to Onslaught, Clayton, I just want to go ahead and also start there. Onslaught's getting kind of a new revamp this episode as well. You guys have left proverbially very few, if any, stones untouched this time around.
Correct, yeah. And so, we heard players' feedback. They wanted to see us invest in Onslaught. We are coming out with a brand new Onslaught called Onslaught Salvation.
Yeah.
We are going to have 3 maps that you'll be in there. You will have some new defenses. We'll have enemy factions that will be fighting into the theme of this episode. We'll have the Scorn. We'll have the Dark Cabal.
That's right.
A bunch of other new stuff that we can get into.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll be diving into that here briefly. You can see our fire team is now on their way. While we're on the way over as well, I made a brief mention of our friends in the Shadow Legion as well. Can you tell us what the Shadow Legion is doing here and why they might be in league with Fickrel, Jerome?
The Shadow Legion are bumming. They are in utter disarray. Their leader has been slain, and they are grasping to anyone who can keep them in power.
Yeah.
And Fickrel holds the most powerful artifact around now.
Got it.
So they will be doing his bidding, though it will be a tenuous alliance.
They're going with Fickrel's Riz just for right now, but that may not be the case later on.
That's right. We will do our best to stomp that out.
Thank you. All right, fair enough. Much appreciated. All right, so now we are here. We're in Onslaught, and we're on Widow's Court.
Yeah. So PvP players will recognize this map, and they'll also recognize some of the changes that we've done to accommodate for the slaying, the amounts of slaying that is necessary for an Onslaught activity.
Yeah, a quick refresher for the folks at home that may not have dove into Onslaught recently or since Into the Light. There is the 10-level mode and the 50-level mode, isn't that correct?
Right, so Onslaught Salvation will also be coming with the 3 modes that they've had in the past, which is the playlist 10-wave mode, the normal 50-wave mode, and then we'll have our expert 50-wave mode. And the new thing about Onslaught Salvation, one of the new things, is that it will not be power fixed like it was prior in Into the Light. Power enabled, so your armor and your weapons will matter even more. It will be at the start more difficult, but you can, through getting better, more power.
Is there a power increase this season?
Grinding that artifact level, you'll be able to kind of outweigh that difficulty. And you'll also be able to, rely on some of the new defenses as well.
I was going to say, we were just looking at a turret that maybe Guardians haven't seen since their days on the moon in D1. Can you tell us, what's going on? We got some new defenses, obviously.
We have some new defenses. So Ashley Baker is one of the tech designers we have. She's on the fire team right now, and she has helped us build these defenses, as well as other things in Onslaught. And she's worked with the Sandbox team, who knocked it out of the park with this rideable turret. So it is kind of a standard rideable turret at first, but by upgrade 3, it's going to have more health, it's going to be dealing more damage, but it's also going to have scorching rounds come out of it. And what the cool thing about that is that if you have build crafting with fragments or what have you within scorching, that will play off that if you're the rider.
Very nice. So you can go ahead and really scorch everyone.
Everyone. Clumps of enemies, those annoying demolitionists that come in front of the ADU and scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, they do. That was my words. Okay, they do scare that. All right. So in the subject or in the topic of new defenses, so we're bringing back the turret from yesterdecade of Destiny, but also there's some other ones available as well. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some new defenses that are on the way?
Yes. So the other one that we have is the airstrike, which will have 3 cannons when you purchase it. Or upgrade it, they'll be replenished there. And what that allows you to do is essentially mark anywhere on the ground. And when an enemy or enemies run over it, a giant beam, it will come down from the sky and obliterate your enemies. I'm going to keep a little bit of the secret for higher upgrades. I want to reveal everything. That's fair. But there's some really nice upgrades.
Nimbus liked that. We'll just go ahead and put that.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, so just to double check as well, with the airstrikes, it's not just you plant it and it fires. It actually has to wait for somebody to kind of trigger that.
Waits for someone to come over.
Airstrike.
So much like the tripwire, which we are also updating for Onslaught Salvation. We've heard the feedback about the tripwires, and we want to bring their value up a little bit more. So now they're going to be exploding with stasis slow fields, and on higher upgrades, they'll be creating stasis crystals for you to play off of if you have a stasis build, or a stasis weapon. And then I'm happy to share
does it only
that
trigger if someone
those
walks into it?
updates will also be available in the original Onslaught as well.
Very nice. Okay, so all the updates that are happening to the defenses that are available in Onslaught Salvation will be available in the traditional Onslaught mode as well.
Just the tripwires, yeah.
Very exciting. Okay, nice. Good to see.
Airstrike did nothing.
Well, we're on the topic of stasis and obviously looking at our tools for destruction. Chris, I'd be remiss if I didn't try and bring up the new breach loading grenade launcher that our fire team here is getting a lot of use out of. There's obviously a decent chunk of new weapons arriving with Revenant, but let's start here. This is the new seasonal, or pardon me, episodic exotic?
Yeah, this would be
Episodic
the season pass
exotic.
Yeah.
It's the Alethanin Stasis primary ammo grenade launcher.
Yeah.
So we've only had one primary ammo grenade launcher before, which is Fighting Lion.
Fighting Lion.
Which is
beloved.
getting a buff this season as well, actually. It'll
That's right, yeah.
make enemies volatile when it hits them, so like serious build crafting there, particularly in PvE. But anyway,
Vestigial alchemy bar is full.
so this is a bit different in that it's also a projectiles travel in a straight line, so like mountaintop.
Yeah.
Hits pretty hard. But the exotic part of it is that as you defeat enemies, you will gather these remnants, which will fill up the exotic bar, which you can see in the HUD when people aren't dead.
Yeah. It's the shade.
Oh, they resetted their
expert.
vestigial
No,
alchemy
that's true.
bar.
Yeah, this is, we should
So
note for the
so they
Guardians at home,
wouldn't
this is an
see
expert
what
mode, so
it
they're,
does.
Yeah, it is
taking
a
the hard
tough
way,
activity.
obviously.
But yeah, so when the bar reaches 50%, you can special reload, and your next shot will launch a special ammo brick for you and your allies to pick
Or
up.
were they just trying
And
to
when you reach 100, you
GL
can special
jump?
reload and launch heavy ammo.
screwed
this
it
lets
up?
you really go in on a new type of support role, which
Yeah.
is
Okay.
like ammo support.
Extra
which we
ammo.
haven't really seen in the
Cool.
game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
I guess
think
they were
on my
just trying to
side, I
rocket
spent a lot of
jump and
time doing,
fail.
like the Seeker and Finder mods on my helmet, but it seems like a nice additional way to go ahead and make sure that you're really feeding the fire, feeding the fuel, pardon me, of the heavy ammo burners like myself who have been addicted to microcosm recently. So
potentially you could have one person in the fire team go all in on ammo generation, and
Yeah.
the other folks build
Very
something else.
Also,
Warlocks,
so Clayton, when it
your
comes
job.
to the other stuff that's arriving with Onslaught Salvation, are there any new things we're looking forward to? I know that we're obviously fighting the evolved Scorn, but are there any new bosses or anything people can look forward to?
Right, so the Ficral Scorn are also going to be coming out with what we're calling the Revenant Baron.
Okay.
And that thing is scary, and you'll see it on wave 6 here in a second when the players are instructed to go into like a Revenant nest and go and save the Elixni from being captured.
Yeah.
These Revenant Barons, they stalk the area, and when you kill them, they will create a Revenant totem which flies in a random direction, leaving a trail so you can kind of like stalk it, find it.
Yeah.
You have to kill it before it would respawn the Revenant Baron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's some hide and seek gameplay there. Yeah, and so we also have for the rewards side, starting on wave 30, set 3, players will have a small chance to get a fully masterwork double perked episodic weapon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and
Fully
on Expert,
masterwork
if we're
double
playing,
perked
if you remember
episodic
the bonus
weapon.
chest on harder difficulties will show up. So if you're not playing on Expert, you have 2 chances.
Okay, all right. So really make sure you're pushing through those final levels. Try and hit that ceiling of
Push
level
it
50
to
so you
the
can really
limit.
facilitate the loot grind as much as you can.
100%.
Something we mentioned recently in one of our Dev Insight vlogs as well are Banes, which are going to be making an appearance here in Onslaught. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so we'll be, with the Expert mode only, we'll be having Banes throughout the activity.
These are like
and
the
we'll also be
enemy
adding
debuffs?
mods. So it's really nice to,
Like a special
to have
abilities
them
from
show up
enemies?
because they add another layer of replayability into Expert. You don't know if you're going to get the gaseous one where you're like, you got a shot on you, or if you have to break line of sight, but it adds a fun variability within the gameplay, so every wave feels different.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a 2-barrel shot. It
I just
loads
wanted
2
to point
in,
out
shoots
here,
2 at the
you'll
same time.
notice 2 things. First off, the fire team is tracking that Revenant Baron, just like you said.
Yeah.
And also freeing captured Elixni. And as to why people would want to keep Elixni captives alive, I'll save that for the players to discover.
Sounds devious.
The other thing is
Turn him into
you'll see
Scorn.
Crow chiming in a lot. He's features prominently in the season.
Right, yeah.
Because he is inadvertently, of course, responsible for creating Ficral, and so it's his responsibility as the new Hunter Vanguard to rectify his old problem.
Interesting. Even though he can't be like, hey man, that was Ultron, that wasn't me. He's going to step up and take responsibility for that.
Absolutely.
Old Fickrel's fickle out there. Even to that same end
Fickrel's
too, we're going to be
fickle.
hanging out
Okay,
with Crow, with Ido, and with Mithrax, obviously the main kind of part of the story. They're going to be the ones that we're going to be hanging out with the most, you'd say, or?
There will be some other Elixni, some venerable old school Elixni that poke their heads in that you'll see some drama with. I won't say any more than that.
Fair.
But it will be in everyone's interest to see Fickle go down here.
Okay, got it. A little bit of enemy, my enemy. In this case, they're all our enemy.
That's right.
Fair enough. Actually, really quickly, Clayton, I know we kind of touched on several different subjects here between the different defenses, different enemies, the different kind of
14,000 scrap. What are you going to do with that?
Onslaught Salvation has provided you.
What are you doing with that 14,000
sitting
scrap,
down with
dog?
the team and sort of looking at this new refresh on this activity? Like, did you guys take any big challenges for yourself where, like, we want to do this?
Yeah, we knew we just wanted to build and evolve and just do more.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
It's a metal episode. We want to do Onslaught. Let's metal it up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So things like the turret,
Metal
things like the
it
Revenant
up.
Baron. We really want to play into the themes of this like kind of haunting, spooky episode.
Smart onslaughters know to save it.
And yeah, and you're seeing that in the roll dart. You're seeing that in the different defenses and the mechanics that we're bringing in as well. Yeah.
Do you think they're going to play it
One
that
thing
long?
I forgot to mention too is we are updating the moth yards from the original Onslaught.
Oh, really?
We've heard feedback from there. It's taking a little bit longer. We want to bring our goal is to bring that in line with the rest of the maps of the original Onslaught. So we're making some updates there to get that to go.
Very exciting. So reasons, obviously, to dive into all
Marketing told them
Revenant
to use the word
Onslaught as we
metal.
go ahead and move into Revenant.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Actually, and while we're here, out here, slaying out as best as we can against this new undead army, Chris, we're going to have obviously a slew of new episodic weapons arriving this time.
Yeah.
I know we've kind of spoken about this breech loading grenade launcher. Are there any other notable ones that you're
Make
most
ammo
interested in,
with
or
your
most
thing.
excited, rather, I should say, in bringing back?
There we
there are
go.
A few weapons that
Wait, did he
I
do
would
it?
personally be chasing.
Yo,
also.
we just shot out a
I'm particularly
brick.
fond of the new
Sick.
double fire.
Oh, it's a finder
stasis
brick,
grenade
though.
launcher.
Yes.
Only the third.
Was it a finder
double fire
brick?
in the game, and the other two are energy slot.
Yeah.
So
Wasn't a
the
natty, was it?
Kinetic slot. It's got the new perk Envious Arsenal, which is like directly targeted at damage rotations. So whenever you do damage with the other two weapons, the weapon reloads.
Yeah.
So you can just cycle between your weapons, get it back. And it also has chill clip, which on a double fire is particularly cool.
That's what I said,
Like,
devious,
hit
honestly.
Twice or 4 times.
Yeah.
There's also some cool synergies with the new perks on some of the other weapons.
Ammo's ammo?
So the hand cannon can run
Well,
the
I
new
mean,
perk
it's
Rhyme Stealer.
15%
Every time
the
you
size.
shatter a stasis crystal or a frozen enemy,
20 or
grant
15%
you
the size,
frost
whatever
armor,
it is.
Yeah.
Depends on your...
which is the new verb we introduced
No,
recently.
yeah, it's like...
And that can also roll with Headstone,
Much smaller.
which will generate stasis crystals.
Yeah.
So you've got this like self-contained loop there.
Yeah.
Submachine gun is an arc precision, and that's got the new perk. Shoot, what is the name of that?
My memory's failing me.
Anyway, it ties back into Jolt, right? Like the
Right. Thank you.
Vault Shot is great, but it requires a reload on your weapon after a kill.
Yeah.
This one's triggered on sustained damage, so
That's right.
you'll jolt the target, and then the perk I'm going for in the other column is Loose Change, which every time you apply a debuff gives you a reload speed buff. So you'll be constantly having that loop cycle.
Yeah. And also, so we're going to look at the new artifact here in a little bit once we go ahead and move through this final wave of what's in front of us right now. But there's also, it's been featured a little bit in some art about Destiny's 10th anniversary, an exotic of yesteryear, we'd say, for all the
Better
Guardians
Joel,
who have been sticking around for a while, rather. Icebreaker is returning.
Yeah, Icebreaker is coming back. It's something that we've been holding off on doing just because the ammo economy issues that are introduced in Destiny 1.
Sure.
were
And they
pretty
just
dire.
dropped
Yeah.
a primary,
We've got a
another
version
primary
here
GL
which,
with ammo gen.
We think lets you get back into that fantasy of just like always having uptime on the weapon without letting you just hang back and like plink away at enemies from range, which
Yeah.
we never liked. So the way it works is assists and final blows with other weapons will just generate ammo for Icebreaker.
Got it,
And it's
okay.
got like a 10-round magazine, which is also the same size as reserves.
Yeah.
So the play is that in between boss damage phases or something, you and your team slay out, and as long as you're getting assists or kills, you'll come back in fully loaded.
Got it. Yeah.
And in Destiny 1, there wasn't actually any ice to break, right? So
True.
this time, we actually have a bunch of ice that you can break. I won't go into
But can you
details
still
because
use
it's
regular
fine.
ammo
Fair
with
enough,
Icebreaker?
okay.
Ties deeply into
Yeah,
it.
does it have to be
this Stasis
regen?
episode will certainly be giving people a lot of reasons to break the proverbial ice by the sounds of it. No, that's very exciting to check out. Now, while we're still here, let's go ahead and check out the new artifact that's going to be arriving. We love getting a chance to show all of you folks this early so you can go ahead and start your build crafting. But Chris, I know obviously last time around, if I had to kind of paint it with a meta I'd say rather, it'd be very focused on sniper rifles, solar. If there was a similar theme for this particular artifact, what would it be?
So it goes very hard into stasis.
Yeah.
Like touches all of the stasis verbs. If you want to make a stasis build, you can amplify it in a bunch of ways.
Yeah.
Here, we're also adding a bunch of grenade launcher perks. So we've got overload grenade launchers, which is great, like tagging those like super deadly overload champions.
Yeah.
Also bringing back a variant of like everyone's favorite grenade launcher artifact perk, Breach and Clear.
Oh, yes.
So you can weaken enemies, and then when you boost it, you can get the second part of that old perk.
Nice.
We were saying earlier, you can boost artifact perks with the potion system.
That's right, yeah. Good. I also will admit I'm very selfishly excited to see anti-barrier scout rifle back. It's been so long.
Anti-barrier.
I've missed it.
Barrier scout is great.
I'm going to pretend like that's just for me, for my own benefit.
It
today.
is.
We're trying something a bit different with this artifact as well, in that the first column is all anti-champion mods, and the final column is all of the pinnacle ones, like the capstones for your artifact build.
Right, yeah.
But columns 2, 3, and 4 are roughly equivalent in power, which will let you mix and match them more freely instead of feeling like you have to like go for the top tier ones. They're all usable in builds.
It's less of a linear escalation and more of just a mix and match in a lot of ways. Very exciting. Okay, so there'll be plenty of opportunities for players to go ahead and amplify their builds, go ahead and really lean into one play style. If, again, you're like me and want to run double grenade launchers, this feels like a remarkably great season to be doing that, especially with the Fighting Lion buff. Thank you for sharing that with us. But I believe that actually wraps us up for this particular segment of Onslaught, but there's also a couple more things that I wanted to go ahead and tease for the arrival of Act 1. For starters, an old favorite strike is going to be making its return. The inverted spire is returning. But Clayton, it's not coming back exactly as people remember it, is it?
Nope. We're taking an approach and adjusting all the encounters, and you'll see more Vex than what you're used to.
That's true. I can confirm. My compatriot on the social media team, Mitch, showed me through it a little bit. The only thing I'll spoil is if you like death lasers, you're going to have a great time out there. And then in addition to that, there's one more thing we wanted to add in. Arriving with Act 2, mind you, of Revenant, and I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right, inspired from a fan favorite activity from Destiny's past. We're going to go ahead and bring back an activity, but we're not going to tell you anything outside of that. So chat, speculate, let us know what you think. Go ahead and shout us out on Twitter or wherever it is you like to hang out online.
SRL.
With that, I think we're go ahead and ready to get
SRL
ready,
confirmed
for the next segment. But in the meantime, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share a little bit of what's arriving with Revenant. We appreciate your time so much today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
It takes a lot to make me look good, so thank you guys for stepping up here and helping out. I appreciate it. Now, as we transition into our next stage, we've got what we've called in my notes the cool stuff segment, and I think it lives up to that. So we'll go ahead and show you a little bit more of what's to be arriving with Revenant, including what you're seeing here on your screen right now. This is the second earnable skimmer that's going to be arriving in Destiny 2. The aptly named, we'll wait for it to highlight, the Zerf board. I'm so glad that was the name that stuck. As you can see, it features some very unique Nine-style styling, inspired by Xur himself. Both top and bottom are very arted up. The top's obviously a little bit more visible here, but if you do a sweet front flip or back flip, if you're capable of it, you can go ahead and see all sides of it. Notably, this is going to be earnable. So if you go ahead and start saving up those strange coins now, it's going to cost you 97 of them. So if you're like me and spend your weekends spending all those extra strange coins at Xur to go ahead and get more rolls on your exotic class item, maybe save up for a week or two. Also, because I work here, I've started saving up already, spoiler alert. But the Zerf board will be available with the arrival of Revenant. So make sure and go ahead and grab the first earnable skimmer since the Guardian Games. In addition to that, we obviously have mentioned very recently that we're going to be having a new dungeon arriving with Revenant, and as a part of this, we're going to be doing a dungeon race in cooperation with our friends over at Twitch Rivals. We've put the sign-up link out there. It's available on our social media channels or on Twid, or if you prefer your URL's phonetic, it's bung.ie/Twitch Rivals. You can go ahead and head out there, sign up with your fire team, and make sure that you're ready to go ahead and take on this new challenge, which will, again, also provide some additional chances for Bungie rewards. You can see here on screen, we've got a look at the hoodie that will be earnable along with the bracelet. But perhaps what's most interesting about the hoodie is that as a part of the dungeon race, if you're one of the top 3 teams to go ahead and cross that proverbial finish line, then we'll be able to ship out a special embroidered version with your gamer tag on it as well. So make sure and go ahead and dive on in and prepare to try and cross that finish line first. And now we're also going to take one quick look Festival of the Lost is going to be arriving with Act 1 of Revenant as well. And if you all remember, you took a chance to vote on some armor sets for yourselves. So Hunter's up first. You can see here we've got the Evil Wizard set. I myself am very looking forward to adding this to my collection. The Evil Gothic set is just going to only dial up more and more. Up next, our Friendly Neighborhood Warlocks. You've got this to look forward to, including what I think we affectionately refer to as probably the coolest pants we've all ever seen over here at Bungie. And breaking out from the crowd, the Good Wizards this time around. Titans, you went ahead and voted for it this way. You're going to have the chance to go ahead and add this into your arsenal as well. So make sure that you're prepared to go ahead and dive on into Festival of the Lost and grab this stuff once it's available.
I was about to sing me a song.
So maybe I'm just projecting. But either way, make sure and get ready to go ahead and update your fashion where you can. But now we get to move on to our second segment of the show, where we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about what's further on down the road. So we've talked about what's just around the corner. Let's look forward to Frontiers. And here to help me discuss those topics today, that topic today as well, rather, are these two fine individuals to my left, which you've met at some point or another. But again, we'll make sure and introduce them to everyone out there in the crowd. We'll start with you first, Allison. Okay. Allison, how's it going?
It's going so good. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
We're up so early. I'm doing well, thank you so much.
Good.
Allison, obviously narrative director here on Destiny at Bungie. Can you tell anyone who may not have seen you in a Vidoc or one of our past streams a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm the narrative director for D2. It is me and my team's job to tell stories. It's our job to take care of our characters, of our arcs. We make you laugh. We make you cry. We make you have feelings that you normally don't have to have in your usual day-to-day life.
I was raised not to feel feelings, so it's a very upsetting experience when I do.
Feelings are distressing.
Oh, no.
I understand. We also get to plan future things, planning ahead for the arcs to come.
Yes.
And the
saga
to come.
About. I know, the whole new saga. We'll have a little bit to dive into as well today. I know, I'm so excited. And then also sitting next to her, Robbie Stevens, assistant game director here at Bungie, a man that I've not had a chance to interview since back in my Mixer days. But if you've tuned into these Bungie streams in the past, you've seen him as well. Robbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Andy. And I think you've grown a lot since those Mixer days.
Thank you. It's been so long, right? Yeah. My badge changed and everything. For the folks that may not know you, may not know what a game director does, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so one of the main things I do as assistant game director for Destiny 2 is I work on the creative direction and vision for where we're going with Destiny coming up in the future with Codename Frontiers. So I get to work with our game director, Tyson Green, and Allison Lurs, our narrative director, and a bunch of our other creative leaders on how we shape the future of Destiny to come.
Very exciting, which we are going to be diving into now. I know we've obviously released some blogs about the Codename Frontier stuff already. If you've been out on Bungie.net reading the Dev Insight blogs, there's been a good amount to dive into. But our friends over on the community team as well have been helping us kind of, read more into what the audience feedback is and what the players are saying. And so we've had obviously some topics come up that I think we should just go ahead and dive on into.
Let's party.
Absolutely. Okay, that's the right attitude. Let's party at this early in the morning. Always the answer I want to hear.
10:30, Andy?
So Robbie, we'll go ahead and start with you. One of the things we said is that these expansions are going to be medium-sized. Can you help us understand a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, definitely. So expansions are changing going forward with Codename Frontiers. And so our philosophy behind this is moving from one really big, all-consuming tentpole moment that kind of takes all the oxygen in the room at one point in the year to two what we consider big tentpole moments happening in each year. And so those tentpole moments coming twice a year now are going to bring with them fresh content and new stories that are going to move the world of Destiny forward. And to answer your question directly, the way we're kind of looking at the size of these is similar to like Rise of Iron from Destiny 1. But this is happening like twice a year as compared to the past.
Yeah.
And so, what's kind of the reason we're talking about this, the rough shape of the box
Don't say the word smaller.
that we're filling is that what comes with it is like each expansion is going to have its own unique version of a campaign and post-game experience that you can dive really deep into beyond the initial playthrough, similar to how things like the Dreaming City or the Pale Heart from the Final Shape had worked, where beyond those initial campaign experiences, there's like further things to explore and secrets to uncover. And so making our expansions unique and deeply replayable is a big goal for us, in large part to support all the new gear and the new tiering of gear that we're putting into the game, right? And so it's one about, each of these expansions, again, they're going to tell a really compelling story as part of our next saga, but I really want to stress that they're also going to be unique experiences, unique campaigns and post games.
Yeah, I know that's something like, I've kind of overheard some of the conversations where when it comes to these expansions as well, obviously the corollary we're using today is Rise of Iron, but like these are going to be brand new experiences, things that we just haven't released before in the past.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that as well? Or?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Definitely. And so for Codename Apollo specifically, the first expansion coming up with Frontiers, you're going to journey to a Metroidvania-inspired destination, right? That's our guiding light for how we're creating this new location. And so this new destination is going to feature a non-linear campaign that puts you, in the driver's seat.
Non-linear
of
campaign.
Exploring its world and its story. So this is very different from the past where you're kind of following a very linear mission
Straight up
structure
linear, dog.
or line.
Yeah.
That's very simple in many ways. And Allison actually recently talked a bunch about this in a blog post.
So when we made the decision to lean into that Metroidvania structure, we knew that the narrative structure had to match, had to complement that structure as well. And so the way that we're going to treat non-linearity in Codename Apollo is when you arrive at our destination, which is a new destination, you'll be able to decide if you want to go to region D or region C, or maybe you want to go check out B, because that's going to be where you get the ability that allows you to access region A so you can talk to that character that you really like. We really want that sense of the player being in the driver's seat and being able to decide where and how they want to explore and discover the secrets that we have in the world. And whichever of those different choices that you make doesn't negate the others. We want you to explore every crevice inside of the experience. And to help support that, we've structured our story in a complementary way. So we'll have the normal kinds of activity dialogue that you normally experience in a campaign, but there's also between 25 and 30 different threads of stories that you can discover and chain together after you complete an activity. There's so much richness to discover that we're creating.
You see that little thread of that shining rock somewhere, you can really just afford to pull on it and just dive in by the sound
Absolutely, that's what we want you to do.
Okay, that's awesome. So actually, let's go ahead and stay on the topic of story here for just a second as well. I think that there's been some conversations about the future of narrative Destiny, which has obviously been so central to the experience, so core to our characters and our stories. There's been some concern that maybe the new structure might not afford the opportunity for as much story in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are planning and what that means?
That would be news to me if it suddenly vanished. I like what
Allison,
I do.
Please stay.
Please don't let go. Yeah, exactly.
Is this how we find out?
No, story is Destiny. What makes Destiny Destiny is that beating heart of story at its core. That's not going anywhere. The thing that this new structure allows us comes in two parts for story. Part one is pacing. With these 2 tentpole beats a year, the feeling that the world is changing and growing and moving is going to come much quicker now, which means that we can move the plot along at a much quicker pace than we used to. Part 2 is focus. Because these are much more focused releases, we don't have to worry about padding the sides with a bunch of extra stuff to kind of fill in the space. Nope, we are zeroing in on exactly what each of these releases is trying to communicate. And so that means we're going to tell a more focused story and with pacing that keeps up with what fans want.
I mean, it's also too, it's interesting because, obviously the narrative is one big part, the story you're telling, the words on the page, but another part of it, given that we have the unique opportunity with a medium like video games, is how players interact with it. We've seen some comments online and some notable conversations about, go talk to Vendor X, head over to the holodeck and say hello to this other person, go back to Vendor X and shake their hand one more time.
Fix this camera's contrast, it's different than the other cameras.
It drives us bonkers too. No, we believe that everything should be questioned, right? We should be questioning that structure, and we should be reinvestigating it. And starting with Revenant, and especially when we get to Apollo, we're going to be deliberately shaking it up. By the time we get to Apollo, that loop, that pattern is more or less gone. We're shaking things up a lot.
I mean, Allison spoke to it earlier, but all those threads that you're pulling on, right? These are characters out in the world that you're exploring and discovering, right, as part of your journey here. And so it's not you going to the same location where you expect to see someone delivering a piece of information to you between, specific missions. It is you exploring the world, finding these people, pulling on all these different threads in order to discover things within this weird and wonderful place.
The feedback is loud and clear. We want to keep the player out in the world, out and exploring, and get information to them for a change. we're listening.
And also, I mean,
Your
I will
mic
say,
is
Allison,
dying.
you didn't arrive empty-handed. You've got some cool concept
Fix your
art to share
mic.
with us as
I
well.
brought some goodies.
Okay.
I brought some presents.
Thank
I
you.
brought some birthday presents. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday,
It's your
everyone
birthday.
who's born on
Looking at
October 1st.
concept art is always a joy.
Exactly.
It's a good way to go about it. It's better than wrapping paper covering a PlayStation. I don't
It's
know.
true. It's true.
Let's go ahead and take a look. So this is, we've got up on screen kind of one of our first pieces of concept art from the future.
Not a great place to hang
can you
out
tell us
under
a little
rocket.
bit about what we're looking at here?
No,
some
I
rockets?
can't. On purpose. What I can tell you is that this is some concept art of our new destination, which, like I said, is a new place that we haven't been to before, which means that these people that you're seeing are people that we haven't met yet. We're going to learn a lot more about them, and I love this piece because the longer that you look at it, same with some of the other art that we've shared so far, the more you start to see things that are kind of familiar all the way out at this new location.
Yeah, it's like
so lots of fun things to discover.
What's the symbol on that banner? Is this a seance or a wedding ceremony? Who knows?
I know,
right?
and I'm not telling.
Telling a single soul.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Plenty to
Why are they
into,
living under
including
rocket
we've got another
engines?
piece of concept art is here as
Yes.
well.
Something we talk about a lot, and like I think the last concept really like spoke to it is like when
Rocks.
especially when we're developing a new destination like this, like we really think about like what is a storied history that's happened here. What's something that players can like really sink their teeth into and dig deep into. And you know, going into this concept, something that I love about it
That place
really
is gonna be
resonated
a
with me with a lot of
blast.
the early creative discussions we had on it is that we wanted this place to feel like an exotic world that is just tailor built around the joy of discovery, right? And then so within this new destination in Apollo, you're going to be discovering powerful abilities in order to uncover secrets in this location and in order to carve a path to the great mystery at the heart of the planet. And that's what like these concepts, you know, when I look at them in retrospective as the team is now actively like building a bunch of this stuff. It's very evocative for me from that feeling of like, hey, how can, it's something Tyson and Allison and I talk a lot about is like, how can we get that like grand mystery in that game, that feeling that there's something right around the corner, that like it's kind of at the heart, has been at the heart of Destiny for a long time. And as we've been closing down the Light and Dark saga, it's been an amazing roller coaster ride, but we want to expand and grow Destiny. And we want to change it. And you know, that's what I think these concepts are starting to speak for us, trying to show not just us telling of like, some of that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see because I think one thing I've heard you guys talk about a lot as well is, you know, just the inspirations that you want to obviously provide the players. You build these new worlds, but you guys have been diving into a lot of crazy subject matter just on your own to get inspired as well. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of some of the fun reading or listening you've been doing as you've been going through this?
Sure. One of the fun parts about being a creative is that you have to fill the tank with something. And
certainly.
so that means doing a lot of research, finding a lot of other targets in media, or even just like what music you're listening to while you're working on a script, right? I know for our team, something that really inspired us was music of the 1960s. We've listened to a lot of early prog, a lot of King Crimson, and a lot of, oh gosh, The Doors and Jefferson Airplane. We also, there's a
Is
lot
Elvis
of
going to show up and rap in Codename Frontiers? Codename Apollo?
We love to look for inspiration outside of just games because there's so much in the world that can fill that tank and get us inspired for what's coming next. And we also look to television, of course, too.
Yeah. I mean, TV and movies is like to talk about all the line. I mean, Allison as the narrative director, much better at referencing text. I'm a little bit more of a visual guy.
Is that the nice way to say that?
Yeah, it's kind.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Social media and TikTok have rotted us all.
They've just rotted me. Actually.
But yeah, like when we talk about like all this inspirational media, like one of the things, Destiny also being a sci-fi game that we talked a bunch about was for Apollo was Scavenger's Reign. That's something that Allison, remember in early concepting we were talking about, and we're like, oh wow, that media, that TV show is so great because like it's familiar in some ways, but as you get closer and you really look at their world, it's really strange and different and weird and mysterious, and it really kind of just builds this halo of allure around it that is something that really spoke to us.
The first half was.
When we're thinking about like, how can we introduce something new to the game at the top
insight.
of
How did devs think?
So there's obviously a lot of new inspirations. We had a chance to look at some concept art, but Allison, I got to put you on the spot
spoil
one
everything.
last time. Do you have any other teasers for us or anything you can give us before we move on to the next subject?
I got a weird one.
Okay, even better.
Okay. So imagine going to a mansion, like a really nice, really big, fancy house.
Okay,
and
not just in the tutorial to Tomb Raider.
No. Like a nice.
What else do you want to know?
So you're going in
how the
and
mechanics
looking
work,
at
what
it like
the bosses
a
are? You want to
room or
spoil the whole
something,
damn
and
thing?
maybe the owner of the house tells you there's a secret door somewhere in here, and you're looking around and you can see the door that you came through and you can see the window, but it kind of looks like a dead end, like there's nothing in here. And everyone knows that a good secret door comes from like behind a bookcase. Like you go up to a bookcase and pull on a book or a little statue that's been in front of your face the whole time, but you just haven't had the focus on it yet. And if you pull on that, it opens up the secret door, and suddenly what was a dead end looks like an entryway.
Yeah.
And that's what this saga is.
Okay, that's very exciting. And it won't be like Young Frankenstein where I get stuck in the door. Right?
Great, now I'm going to explore every nook and cranny.
Not even for comedic value.
Waste of time.
Behind the bookcase. Murph.
Okay, all right. Thank you again, Allison, so much. There's obviously a lot of cool stuff to dive into, but we'll let you and yours keep crafting. But we've got also one more subject as well. Robbie, I'd love to bug you about one more thing, if
Please.
that's all right.
Yeah.
So we've seen some feedback on reward tiers and how there might not be enough variation in loot for players to go ahead and get encouraged to go ahead and keep chasing down more gear. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're all building right now and kind of what that means to you?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is like very valid feedback, just acknowledging that in the first place, because the first thing we announced was just like, hey, there's some new tiers, right? And then obviously, you're going to look at that and go like, well, I have a bunch of amazing armor and weapons now, so like, why does this matter in the future? And so totally, that feedback makes a lot of sense to us. And so what's really top of mind and has been for us for a little while now is how we can make not only chasing gear within individual tiers interesting and the whole system interesting, but also how we can make those higher tiers of gear compelling to chase, right? To have that mountain to climb. And so that comes in two forms that I can talk a little bit about today. One, I can go a little more in depth on, which is our next generation armor. That's going to be coming with Codename Frontiers. And then we have some really early thinking for weapons. Okay. And so for armor, let's start there. Is that okay, Andy?
That's perfect. If you wouldn't mind, Robbie.
Yeah, I would. Okay, be happy to. So let me lean in here to focus a little bit. So for next generation armor,
getting rid of
all
all
make armor
armor
valuable again. We want to make it easier to understand, and we really want it to have create new build crafting identities. That's something that's like really close to home for us right now, because we've had a similar system for quite a while now. And so part of making it valuable, easy to understand, new identities is one of the big pieces is going to be a large stat rework to the armor pieces themselves. And so there's going to be fewer stats on each individual piece of armor. So it makes it way easier to quickly compare like pieces of gear and be like, oh, this one's better than that one. I'm building into a specific, discipline, strength, whatever, and you can better understand that. That also means that there's going to be fewer things we call dump stats. Like you looking at a piece of gear and going like, oh man, it only gives me +5 resilience. I don't really want that.
Trash it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's still going to be cases where it's like, oh, it has a lot of resilience, but that's not what I'm building into. But it's just going to be way easier to just glance at stuff.
Very cool.
And figure it out. But beyond that, right, like how can we answer that question of how can next-gen armor have this new build crafting identity? It also, we want to bring new things to the table, right? And so part of the stat rework, we're going to go beyond 100, Andy.
We go beyond sometimes.
Yeah. We've gone beyond light.
That's right.
No. Do you want me to talk over them the whole time so you can't hear
what else makes sense?
I can do that.
Now we're going to go beyond 100.
The whole time so you can't hear fucking anything.
That's where we go.
You just
it was hidden in the lore book somewhere, I'm sure, right, Allison?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Okay. Thank you. No one double check that.
Yeah, don't check our homework. So when what I mean by going beyond 100, so let's talk about strength, for instance. And so this is some early thinking from the team. So in the 1 to 100 range, it would still reduce your melee cooldown like it does today. It would still have that, so that would still be really easy to understand. But then from that 100 and 1 to 200 range, beyond 100, every point into strength at that point would then give you a chance in order to activate a second melee when power melee becomes charged. So basically, you get double melee. You get to double throw your shields or double throw your knives.
It's happened to me before.
Throw whatever
It
Warlock,
sucks.
Space magic stuff they throw in. I don't play Warlocks.
I'm a hunter. I get it.
Yeah. I can't jump, sorry.
Withering blades for days, that's it.
But really, like, the key thing to there, right, is like that starts to create an identity for what you want to build craft into that's very different than just like, oh, hey, I'm building into melee, lower cooldown, that's cool. But now you can start build crafting into like, okay, I'm going to regularly, especially at the higher end, start to get double melee charges, right? And so the other thing we're considering right now is also renaming that stat from strength to melee so that it's just very specific when you look at the gear and kind of like know what it's
cut right to that chase, right?
Another big thing that's coming with next generation armor to the game is set bonuses. And so this is something, I know, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like,
Diablo II.
So, yeah, we've done like some small versions of it in the past. They've been like individual releases, but we're looking at this as like a holistic new system that's coming with pretty much every piece of new legendary armor set that we create, starting with Frontiers.
Okay.
And so these set bonuses are going to come in the form of wearing 2 or 4 pieces of a 5-piece set. So that gives you flexibility in order to wear an exotic at any point. And then also allows you to mix and match different sets. So you can actually start looking at like gear and go like, oh, I have tier 1, tier 2 of one set, tier 3 of other, and I actually want to like mix match them together for different combinatorics, for different build crafting identities. I'm getting like really deep into the weeds here, but the thing that's like really exciting about this is that like one of the perks the team is playing around with that these new set bonuses could give you could be one that's built all around like Tex Mechanica style play, which is like all about hip firing, right? And all about that yeehaw. And then like the more you build into that, you're going to be buffing your Tex Mechanica weapons. And so that's just like one example. But yeah, it's the whole space is just going to like really expand and just become a lot easier to manage in your head and also build complexity into. And so I'm super stoked for it.
No, you guys obviously have been doing a lot of great stuff. So we've touched on armor here briefly. All that sounds awesome, but can you tell us a little bit more about weapons and kind of, how they're going to evolve as well?
Yeah, so we're a little earlier on weapons right now. We wanted to talk about next-gen armor because we have a lot of juicy, good plans coming together right now. But for weapons, the thing I can say is that like in the game today, we have higher tiers of weapons to chase, like adepts and raid weapons, right? And so those things with them come with exclusive perks that basically, cut above the noise of other weapons you might be earning in any individual release. And so we know from the tiering perspective of weapons themselves that like, hey, we already have this kind of touchstone for us that we see that works pretty well. And it's like, so it's really like, how can we meet or clear that bar, right? Like how can we create those exclusive chases at the top of that aspirational mountain for players to climb?
So actually, additionally too, we've heard some concerns that, obviously we're going to maybe be over-indexing on just bringing back reprised weapons. And Guardians will just be out there chasing down something and re-earning something that's just sitting in the vault anyway. Can you tell us a little bit more about like kind of the weapon chase and what you guys are planning on doing with each subsequent release?
Is it trash now?
So just to like make sure to clear the air here a little bit, right? Like every expansion, every season, every raid, every dungeon, there's gonna be new weapons, right? We're not slowing down there in terms of like making a lot of compelling new weapon content.
Cool. Okay.
But the thing about reprisals and revisions that I think is true for a lot of Destiny players is like you have that favorite gun, right? You have that gun that you loved at one point in time, and over time it's just not as useful in the contemporary tuning, activity, sandbox, whatever, right? Like just something about it isn't as good over the years. And so like we did with the Brave Arsenal and Into the Light, like that's our touchstone for like, hey, how can we go in and update, fan favorite weapons, bring them back, breathe some new life into them, and make them interesting to use again. And I also think what's great about that is that people who never got to use their Recluse or Better Devils or something that we haven't reprised just yet, right? Is like, oh, that's their first time experience with it, and they've heard how cool it is.
To all the Guardians who are going to dive into Revenant and get to try Chroma Rush for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I am trying that gun for the first time. It's so good. I'm glad it's coming back.
It's great.
Okay, that all sounds awesome. So everything that Robbie just spoke to, there's going to be a next-gen article, a next-gen armor article going up on Bungie.net after the stream wraps up. But Robbie, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, so something that I should probably touch on is like we're talking a lot about like all this cool gear and like, but like there's a question here, right? That immediately becomes posed of like why does it matter, right? Like why do I care about it? And so we've talked a little bit, right, about the fact that there's going to be customizable difficulty coming in Destiny,
more difficult content,
Frontiers, and then also changes to modifiers and things like that with like the
more difficult content
announced in the recent blog post. And so to making expansions deeply replayable, kind of like I was talking about earlier in our section, and then the customizable difficulty, and then the new modifier systems. Like these are all things that are being built into a structure so that you're going to need to chase that high tier gear. You're going to need to craft that complex set bonus, perfect combination of Tex Mechanica gear in order to take on some of the hardest challenges
more difficult
inside of the
content.
game. And so this isn't just about changing gear. This is also figuring out how we can bring new and interesting challenge to Destiny and how we can really like breathe life into the challenge of the game.
Very exciting. Awesome.
Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, plenty more information on that to arrive on the blog that's going to be arriving on Bungie.net shortly after
Super
this.
Grandmaster PoE.
I don't think I'm going to be able to top what Robbie just said. So we'll go ahead and get ready to go ahead and close out the stream here today by first thanking all of you fine folks at home for joining us today.
Aw, thanks,
we love
Andy.
getting a chance to put these streams on and hang out with all of you in the community, and it doesn't mean anything unless you show up. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. As a reminder as well, there's a Twitch shop going on right now. That's a heads up. You can probably see it pinned in chat, but just to remind everyone at home that if you've earned the Twitch drop, I should say, rather, it will be arriving on your Guardian when Revenant launches on October 8th. So if you don't get it today, worry not. That's by design. It'll be arriving on October 8th, and you'll get to put your shiny new emblem on. And of course, a huge thanks to our guests here, Robbie and Allison. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andy.
Absolutely. And then the folks from our first segment as well, Chris, Clayton, and Jerome as well, Incredible. Thank you so much for taking them to join us. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the amazing folks doing the actual heavy lifting behind the scenes, Peyton, Ashley, and Justin. Thank you so much. Of course, Ashley, one of the folks that helped design a lot of the stuff we looked at today. So thank you all for taking the time to joining us from the throne world, as we call it here, back here in the studio. But yeah, a quick recap. We talked today a little bit about what's to arrive with Act 1 of Revenant, arriving just next week.
Don't spoil it.
Next reset. It'll be arriving on October 8th. Make sure to go ahead and sign up for the Twitch Rivals Dungeon Race. It'll be shipping out on October 11th. And remember, if you're one of those top 3 teams to go ahead and make your way through, then you'll be able to get the cool.
What if you're a top 3 team, but you don't stream?
Well, but there's going to be more information about that arriving on our socials. And then I think that's about it. I think I've concluded my notes here on my laptop. So again, thank you all for taking the time to join us. Make sure and follow us at
Codename
Destiny's
Apollo.
The Game across the board on whatever social channel
Metrovania.
you like. Make sure to check out our
Arbitrary.
Discord as well. We're making some updates out there in terms of the announcement channels. And keep an eye out for the TWID for all this great information. And lastly, but very not least, make sure and head out to Bungie.net after this stream concludes. Read that Next Gen Armor article. We're giving you guys lots of information. Is it fair? No, but we like you, so we're going to keep doing it anyway. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we'll see you all Starside.
Trailer? No trailer. Also, 0 mentions of the word Gambit. Congratulations, non-believers. Who would have thought? What's your favorite thing you heard about today, chat? Was it the return of SRL? Just kidding. That was a joke. Hope no one actually believed that. They did say there is a Destiny 1 favorite activity coming back. Woo! Prison of Elders. Surely. Armor 4.0. Prison of Elders, but dungeon bosses? I don't think they said D1. I thought they said D1. D1 activity, did they not? I thought that's what Andy said. Maybe not. DMG said not SRL. Yeah, it was a joke. They said D1. Yeah. Could it be Court of Oryx? 99 strange coins still the max. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I think I'm most excited about hearing that they're changing up how DLCs work and that they are no longer the same campaign experience that we've had before. Like, how much work goes into like the Lightfall, sorry, not Lightfall, the like the Final Shape campaign experience, right? And you played through that and it was really great, but it's a total of what, however many X hours. And how did Robbie say it? It like, they're looking to focus on making it more replayable and not the exact, like, just a linear campaign you run through, you fly around to different NPCs. metroidvania, so you're exploring this new world. You go to this section, you can't access this area because you don't have the ability to open it up, so you've got to go down this area to get this ability or this thing that unlocks this section, and it, you know, you're constantly learning about different pieces of the story as you kind of web through this narrative that hopefully leads to, like, you know, I assume leads to a single ending, multiple endings. It can't end in multiple endings, can it? Like a Cyberpunk. Exclamation point episode echoes autocomplete. Next gen armor. Woo. Isn't that like the Pale Heart, how it's supposed to be? Yeah, I would say for what happened after the campaign, but in the middle of the campaign, I guess there was a, I don't know, it felt mostly linear. I don't remember it being too non-linear. Definitely not Metrovania. Ryan, thanks for 41 months primer. Sorry, I have alerts off right now. Next gen armor, TLDR. Armor will be more active. Interesting part of build crafting. Stats will be reworked, more impactful, less confusing, less constraining. Set bonuses will be introduced to give armor sets more unique identities and build crafting elements. Set bonuses! Problem. Years since Shadow keeps Armor 2.0. It's really relatively static. Part of the reward story. Yeah, I don't really care about armor anymore. Just trying to make the bar go up. It's never been very interesting. Let's see. First major change. Stats effects will no longer be tiered. Really loud. Every 10 points. Every point in a stat will provide a benefit. Woo! This change is intended to reduce the lock-in effect that happens when a fine-tuned combination of stats makes it feel impossible to switch out. True. Stat effects will be capped at 200, with the range from 101 to 200 providing an additional powerful effect building on the base effect. This change is intended to support deeper investment in a smaller number of stats and spikier stat distributions. Cool. Your dump stats. That's cool. In addition to changes above, the distribution of stats on armor will also be changing. Legendary armor will have a stat archetype in terms of primary and secondary stat types, with third stat being a free roll. Values of these stats should be overall spikier, leading to fewer points in dump stats. Class slot, hunter cloaks. Cloaks, bonds, marks will have full stat distributions on par with other slots. Feels a little bit like D1. But a little different. Maybe just improved overall. Reiterated upon. Brawler armor. Have extreme melee and other close range capabilities. Handling and loader mod. Primary stat, resilience. Secondary stat. Wait. What am I looking at here? This is resilience. This is intellect. This is recovery. But this is what? That's that's confusing me. Smaller number of unique stats in any piece of armor. Larger contributions to these stats. Your stat point provided a benefit. These changes ultimately make every piece of armor more interesting and easier to evaluate. 200 strength. Consecration Titan. Punch everything.
Destiny's best days are ahead of us.
He was so right. New stats. Some stats will be changing. 3 goals in mind. Improve specific weak stats that offer little value. Reduce, eliminate mandatory must-have stats. Overall, improve understandability of stats and their effects. With discipline, 1 to 100 provides increased grenade cooldown reduction. 101 to 200 provides an increased chance to gain a bonus grenade charge whenever your grenade becomes available. A chance to gain a second grenade. Stat renamed to grenade. Okay, so random double grenades. That's crazy. 1 to 200 for strength, melee cooldown reduction. 101 to 200, increasing chance to gain a bonus melee charge. Cool. Stat renamed to melee. I spent 10 years learning this. No, it's fine. Special ammo. 1 special ammo stat? Special ammo stat? This is a stat? I'm confused. 1 to 100 increases the rate at which special ammo bricks drop from final blows. 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance for that a double size. Oh, we're double bricked up, baby. I'm running 200 special ammo. I'm double bricked up on a Tuesday. Set bonus. Okay, so that's a wait. Is that even up here? I do not. Okay, first of all, this says discipline. This says strength. It does not say melee, and it does not say grenade. The tertiary, I don't see the word special ammo as a stat. But okay, we know, work in progress, whatever. Set bonuses. Second major change. Set bonuses. Origin trait for armor. Yeah. Origin. Has there been origin traits that get more powerful with more of the items in that? I know there's been artifact mods that get buffed. Yeah, I guess there are some origin traits that buff more from having more of the same type of gear, like the Dreamin' City ones, the Dreamin' City weapons, the whatever they did. More damage to something or something. I can't remember. Did armor just get power creep? Well, yeah. I mean, in order to, provide something new to chase, they got to give us something better than turn the game up for it to be harder. And then all of our old shit's too weak. We delete it. Now we chase this new stuff. It's, power creep. It's how you make the game continue to be interesting. Otherwise, we get bored like we are now because we have everything we need. Set bonuses or perks granted when you equip 2 or 4 pieces of armor. Oh, they stole this from Wukong. This allows you to either commit to 2 bonuses from each of the same set or find combinations that fit your unique needs. We're keeping both approaches in mind. Note that there's no bonus at 5 pieces because most builds include exotic. True. As you'll see, perks will consist of stream over, but it's a level 6 hype train. Consist of existing mods or newly designed. We've included a few examples below. Theme. Text Mechanica. While shooting from the hip, you have increased movement speed and weapon handling. Effect increases when you score hits. 4 pieces. Text Mechanic weapons have increased range and accuracy. Those are definitely better. Non-stop aggression. Final blows with 2 pieces. Freshly reloaded weapons heal you. 4 pieces. Damage to target with shotgun fusion increases the damage it takes from those weapons for a short time. Debuff from using... Oh, you debuff a target by using 4 pieces of that legendary gear. Nice. Demolitions Expert. 2 pieces. Direct hits with explosives increase their reload speed. 4 pieces. Repeated direct hits with explosive weapons increase grenade ability damage. Nice. Vanguard Operative. Activating your grenade gives you and nearby allies damage resistance against combatants. Cool. 4 pieces. Defeating champs with finisher generates special for you and your team. Okay. Could be interesting. Okay. As long as there are activities in the game where I feel like I need to build into this, because otherwise I suck. I lack the skill to complete it, so my builds have to be better. Our teamwork or synergy or whatever buzzword has to be better. We have to use this to get it done. So how effective are these things? This one, honestly, PvE, this is like a plus 1% buff. This one depends on how much weakening we're talking. We're probably talking tier 1 weakening, which is like 10 or 15%. There's like 1,000 different ways to weaken things, so probably a non-issue. Not that great. But again, we don't know how much weakening it applies. Increase grenade ability damage. How much does it increase it by? Depends for how strong it is. Hopefully it's juicy to make me want to chase it. want to, you know, build into this. Otherwise, I'll ignore it and use my old shit. Defeating chance to finish your grenade, special ammo for your fire team. Special ammo. Right. So, tons of way to generate special already. Are you ever really running out of special? Kind of. Did you miss the Bungie stream? You show did. What happens to my old armor? It'll be changed as little as possible, but it's going to suck because new shit's better. Which is fine with me. Give us better stuff. I am ready to delete the old stuff. Like, it's in collections. Don't sunset it. Don't put a cap on it. But just give us better stuff. So I just, forgot about all that old stuff. And then I just go and delete it. But make it even easier on me specifically and just mass delete it. So I don't have to look at it. Because it's changed stat mechanics and types are global changes, old armor pieces will have their stat types changed around. Oh, this is a soft sunset. So you're going to get like 3 melee and 3 grenade. So that when you get these new armor drops, they're going to have like triple the stat values. And you're like, oh, that's a juicer. This thing's trash. So like all of your like tier 4 armor picker builds where you have like 100 stats on like your stasis hunter, gone. I'm fine with that. When possible, these changes will be to the most similar stat, but with some stats being fundamentally reworked. This one will be as possible. Okay. People in their triple 100 builds. Oh no. What about exotic armor? Updating the exotic armor pursuit is on our roadmap, not part of the initial update. Focusing on legendary armor. Make sure that exotics and their build-defining perks remain a compelling option. Working out a design option that allow players to update their exotic armor to bring their stat bonuses in line. So they'll just have all the old stats, all 6 of the old stats. Ability, recovery, resilience. I guess everything changes from discipline to grenade, and then strength to melee, and then intellect. Exotic class items introduced final shape are special cases. Even though legendary class items will be gaining the full random stats, we don't want to add randomness to the exotic class item chase. Oh, imagine you're farming a Inmost Syntheseps exotic class item, but you need a certain number of stats on it. Oh god, no. That'd be terrible. Instead, we're providing a method for players to update their existing exotic class items with additional stats if they're choosing to bring them in line. Cool. With stat contribution. New stat contribution of the new legendary class item. Yeah. This armor change will make or break D2 for sure. More details on exotic armor as we nail them down. My vault is full, but they nail them down, but they're not going to release with the initial thing. Okay, yeah. My vault is full. Where am I supposed to store all this new armor? We know that vault pressure is a real problem for many players except Dado, even with the recent increases in vault space outside. This is like, come on, man. We're giving you more space. You should be good now. Outside of adding more space, which is definitely an option, real solutions that enable long-term storage of more desirable roles are really hard problems, but those are problems we're penciling into our roadmap at or around next year's second expansion, Behemoth. We'll show more details when we have a clear direction on how we think we can solve this one. Cool. Behemoth. So that's 2 expansions a year. The codenamed Apollo comes out in, did they say? And then I guess that one will be 6 months later because it's 2 a year. Check my previous mentions for direct quote, no mention of D1. Oh, man. And inspired from a fan favorite activity from Destiny's past. You say Destiny's past, people are going to think D1. D2, that's Destiny's present. That's Destiny's future. D1, that's the past. We're currently playing D2. When does Dado's video drops? I can choose my opinion. $200 a year on Destiny expansions. Ooh, yeah. What are the price point be for these 2 DLCs a year? I guess we'll have to see. But that is the Developer Insight Next Gen Armor. We just watched the Bungie stream on episode Revenant, season 25. Got to learn about a little bit about what's happening in the story with Thickrel juicing up his scorn. Apparently, he's kidnapping some Elixni to make a bigger army. We got Ido making some potions for us to drink. She's getting us effed up. We got a lot of work going into Onslaught. Onslaught, a favorited activity. New maps coming like Widow's Court, with the new turret, the new airstrike thing. What was the other map they mentioned? I can't remember. What else they got cooking up there? We got the dungeon on the October 11th, with the first ever Twitch Rivals race / contest mode / they'll be giving out some kind of award. I mean, not a championship belt title thing, but I guess something else. They mentioned like a hoodie, but is it just a hoodie? What was it? Screenshots of the artifact mods. Yeah, they went through all the artifact mods, saw those. There's ways to boost artifact mods now through the tonics that Ido makes. That's pretty cool. It's a change up. They're also making the columns 2, 3, and 4 like more interchangeable instead of like the early ones kind of suck and like the later ones are way better, except for, you know, column 5 is like the pinnacle. Championship soaker mat for you and your 2 friends. And then they went into further out into the future, Frontiers, which is coming out in 2025 at some point. Season 27, I guess, will be codename Apollo, the first DLC of Frontiers, which is changing up how they're doing campaigns. Now it's a non-linear experience, at least with that first one. They said metroidvania style, so explore a new area, unlock abilities, dive into different places at your, go in your own direction. And I guess the story will support a non-linear, take your own path kind of story. Icebreaker in the dungeon, true. That now regens ammo based on what do you say, kills? Metroid required backtracking. And it was 2D platformer. So they're giving us a 2D platformer. Assist and kills, okay. And then Behemoth, we don't know anything about, I guess. Other than it'll have whatever was in this armor section here. How to deal with all of our old armor. Yeah, people have always thrown up the idea of like having collections for random rolls. You just choose a roll that's your collections roll, and then you blow it away, and then you can just redeem it, pull it out. But just so you have one, I just want one of everything, even though I'm not going to use it, I just want to look at it. What else with Apollo? Increasing the challenge of the game. Like, we're getting all this new armor and eventually weapons, but why do we need it unless the game's getting more difficult for us to need better stuff and better builds? So more in-depth challenges in the activities that we play. Finding new ways to hoard, yes. Chesty armor, chesty chest armor. That's a great code name. I'm kind of most excited for, I want to say armor, but really I know armor grind. It's so hard to have a good armor grind. Like, if you have a game that has a good armor grind, like Diablo 2 felt like that. Throw in the rune words, throw in the set bonuses, throw in the random perks. Like, there was a lot there. But in that, it was about efficiency. How good could you make your build so you can run things faster, so you can get more stuff faster. And in Destiny, it doesn't really lean into that as much because it's more skill based. Like, it's based on how just like your build matters, but how good you are matters more. Probably most excited for how they're changing up the campaign experience, because I really feel like they spend so much time on developing a campaign that we as like in-game players barely spend any time on, and so all these resources and all this time goes into this one-time playthrough of a story that I have like 1% of my playtime in. If more of that time could be spent, if more of those resources could be spent on something that is in the end game, so a replayable campaign that ties into increasing challenges and more in-game loot and leveling up probably not the power grind, but something equatable to just feeling more powerful from using the very resource expensive campaign experience, then that'd be sick. Because right now you blow through final shape and you haven't touched it. All that work, all those beautiful spaces, and after like a month, we're sitting here now just struggling through the seasonal stuff, and it's like you don't even touch it anymore. D1 is back. Get that int dis strength. Int dis strength. D1's back. But how many total stats were there in D1? Was it just int dis strength? Yeah, there wasn't 6. But now we have like 6, but then each armor will have 3. So yeah, really letting you to spike up some of those, which is cool. I never liked just 3 total is like, it's too simple, but I do like a total of 6 with each armor having 3. That's cool. I like that. Was 3 at the start of D2? Was it? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I kind of deleted vanilla from my brain. Mobility now makes no sense. Mobility right now changes your walk and strafe speed and your base jump. So when you press jump the first time, if you hold the button down, which is dumb, you'll jump higher. If you tap the button, you don't jump as high. But if you have max mobility and you hold the button down when you jump, your base jump is higher. So for like warlocks, jumping, useless. Sprinting, useless. But strafing and walking are greatly affected by mobility. But it's kind of a dumb stat. Vanilla was 7 years ago. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to end the Bungie dev stream YouTube video there.